Hello YouTube, my name's Sean Connors and welcome back to The Outsiders. This is a video reply to Emergent Play, who in my recent video gave me a fantastic answer of his thoughts around system, player and DM and the importance of each, which was a very interesting answer. Not one that I totally agree with, I've got to be honest, and that's great because, as I've always said, you know, we have to have differences of opinion. But he went on to ask me a question and that will give me the opportunity to reply in a bit more depth. I think I'm all falling apart here being first thing in the morning. So let's do that. His question really was about why is it that a lot of systems put the sort of power at the very end and not at the very beginning? Why is that the case? I can actually come at this from a design point of view, and I can then tie in a few answers all together. So I think this is quite good. The first thing is the reason that a lot of games do this is the fact that it actually promotes longevity in games. It actually promotes it because you have to work towards an end goal. So the reality for people who do RPGs, one of the fun things for them, most players, is the fact that they like to see their characters progress over the long haul. Actually, part of the challenge is the fact that you experience over months, maybe even a couple of years or a few years of play, all that hard work to a fruition point. And I certainly know my groups love that, and that's something that really appeals. And I think in majority of cases that I've seen over the years of gaming, I've not seen it the other way around. You know, when there's been a game where the power is pretty much up front, they tend to be they don't tend to last very long. I guess that's because people don't actually seem to have much to aim for afterwards, and so therefore the game seems to peter out pretty quickly, if that makes sense. And this leads me on to my sort of reply point, because a lot of the time when you discuss things, which is brilliant, and I like your videos, you often come at it from quite an obscure angle. It's almost diametrically opposed to me, so it's quite interesting. I've been looking for someone who has a very different opinion to me about a lot of things, and I think we do, and that's a good thing. It's a healthy thing, and it gives me the opportunity to talk about this really, which is the reason why the systems are set up the way we've just discussed, and the reason why system is so unimportant, to be perfectly honest, is the fact that you can run a game without one. There's a fact. You don't actually need a system, to be honest. If you've got the right group of players around the table and the right GM, and you could use anything you like. It could be a series of tiddlywinks, it could be a series of playing cards, it could be anything you want. The drawback, of course, is without a system, it's pretty much make it up on the fly. It's pretty weak. They don't tend to be you know, very good, but I have experienced, because it's something that you have to do sometimes when you game design, is just literally go back to the drawing board and actually say, what am I going to do? How am I going to make this system interesting? Now, a lot of the stuff that you talk about in your videos is very indie based. You know, it's called indie gaming. You know as well as I do, it's an indie based game. Now, by definition, really, what is indie? And indie really is a few people, one or two people in a bedroom, who create a game and then create a buzz around it. They pick a particular thing out. Generally, funny enough, it's about attacking the DM role and not having one, because that's a great way to get a buzz. But the truth of it is, to be honest, what's the most popular games? If they were going to break into the marketplace and really get a foothold and be super strong, and many hundreds of thousands of people playing it, and it really eroded away the top markets, every games designer, and I would know I'm one of them, would jump on the back of it and be doing that all the time. The truth is they haven't done that. What they've done is they create a good bit of interest. They're fantastic for short bursts of play, and you pretty much described that in one of the most recent video you did. Short bursts of play, brilliant for round robin DMing, so if a few people are playing, and there's nothing wrong with them at all. They're really good fun. But it is short run. They're not designed for the long haul. None of them are. But the whole way they're set up tells you that they're not designed for the long haul. Some interesting mechanics, some fun things, but they're not designed for the campaign play. That's the reality. And then when you go into DM-less games, which can be also indie, it's a soulless experience, actually, to be honest with you. I don't really enjoy them at all, and I'm not alone in that fact. If it was such a big draw, I'd be doing it. If my group loved it, the groups actually loved it, and they have experienced every game. There's there's nothing you've mentioned that we haven't seen or tried out, and the experience tells me as a GM that that's not what works for them as players. So it's a multi-part answer to you, but in essence, I'm going to recap quickly. This is the benefit of the audience, not for yourself. reason why games actually start at a low point is purely because you then have a long haul. You have a system built in that allows you to take the game to the long haul, and those that actually, funny enough, those have become the most popular systems. And it's not just purely because originally it had the D&D Dungeons and Dragons logo on the name tag. That's not the reason, because we've seen Dungeons and Dragons pretty much collapse in the last few years to only be taken over, funny enough, by themselves, by the very same system that they created at the beginning, because people still massively want to play it. And it would have been very easy for the audience to get turned off Pathfinder, but the reason they've stuck at it is the fact that it still encourages characters to be taken from the beginning over the long haul. And their paths, which take characters from 1st to 20th, have been incredibly successful and have become a sort of a staple diet of a lot of role players. I can't really knock the position of the very best, because I'd be taking an obscure angle. And then we come on course to the points around system, DM, and players. Well, for me, I'm not going to answer the question about what is more important between players and DMs, because that is a matter for debate, and I think it's impossible to say. But one thing I do know is the system ranks incredibly low, at best 30%. That's a reality. Because if it was the other way round, games designers, to be blunt, we'd love to take that kudos, I tell you, we really would. We'd love to say, yeah, it's my system, baby, that's powerful. But no, it's not that way round. And this discussion we've had many times, and you can debate how much of the 30% a game is worth, but it's not worth any more than that. And the other two parts you can discuss as much as you like, and for exactly the reasons I've discussed, really, to be honest, in recap. And that's very simply that the audience will always vote with its feet. If the audience, and you take all the role players as a whole, that was the way that it was going, they would have done. And they haven't. So you are coming at it from quite an obscure point of view. One that works. I'm not knocking it at all in that regard. If it works for you and everybody's happy out there wherever you're playing, as I said, my rule one of DMing and rule one of everything is don't knock it. And obviously anything I say is not going to make the slightest bit of dot of difference, and I appreciate that. But I want to make it clear that we come from two different facets of the same gem. We cut from the same cloth, but we come from two different angles of it. I will never ever enjoy the soulless experience that is DM-less games, and I certainly don't get a lot of fun out of short burst games. Although I've designed a few of them, they're okay for conventions and various other things, and I like them for that. But they won't have the mass appeal of the long-term game where the power is lower down and you have to build towards an end point. And that at the moment is the way that most people tend to play. In fact, it's actually the way that most computer games are also built, exactly that way. And of course that is going to encourage people that is a great way to play. I'm not saying it's the best, I'm just telling you that's the reality of what it is. That's the thing that works the best, and it's the thing that most people are looking for. And because of that point, I think you'll always find it will be the case. And campaigns, of course, as I've said, a campaign can only gain a momentum, and a campaign being many months or a few years of play is what a lot of players are looking for. That's what they come into. They want that challenge, and unfortunately, the only person that can lead them there to that point is someone, a DM with the skill, the talent, and the tenacity, to be honest, who wants to take them on that journey. Hopefully creatively with themselves, so you're actually helpfully encouraging them into the design process, which was a lot of your videos come from, which is fantastic. But if it wasn't for those parts, as I've outlined, you'd never have a long-running game. In fact, my groups would never have survived to this point, because if it was short bursts, people have got far better things to do, to be honest with you, and there's very little challenge in a character that you can create now and is never going to be here in 3 weeks' time. There's no challenge to that, so people wouldn't bother coming. I'd have a very small audience indeed. But the reverse is definitely true. So I want to leave it there because I've recapped about 4 times on it. I just want to illustrate some points as they came to me as I did this video. Loved it. Really interesting. We cut from 2 different parts of the same cloth, and that's exciting for me. So thanks very much for your video reply. You probably won't like my video reply, and I apologise, but it's how I feel. And I just want to say thanks for chipping in on mine, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to chip in yours, and I shall certainly be doing the same again in the future. So thanks very much for your video, and thank you to the wider audience. Take care of yourselves, and happy gaming, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.